Writing a literature essay for the first time is quite daunting. Your teacher will always tell you, no, don't just rewrite the story. If you just tell me the plot line, you're going to get 0, etc. So how then do you go about writing a literature essay using examples from the story but not falling into the trap of just re-explaining the plot? It's a good question. The answer is that you need to be specific. You can't be vague. You can't leave things open-ended. You have to use specific, relevant examples. I always remind my students that writing a literature essay is almost the same as presenting your case to a judge. And if you think in terms of agreeing or disagreeing with a statement, agreeing would be, let's say, prosecuting, and disagreeing would be, say, defending, if you want to look at it that way. So, as the slide says, I'm using the notes posted on the school communicator and given out during the drive-by for my particular group of students. So they will have a lot more detail, but I'm just going to go through things just on a surface level. So firstly, you will need to answer a question. Either they will tell you to write down whether or not you agree and why, or they'll ask you a very specific question. So for example, using the Mark, the novel that our particular school is using, let's say somebody says Edyth, Juliet 7, is a model citizen. So in other words, a person who does what is told and breaks no laws. Now you will either agree or disagree. So the judge will say, now present your argument. You will need to provide evidence. If you were doing a homicide case, a murder, do you have the DNA? Is there a weapon? Do you have eyewitness accounts, motive, opportunity, all of that? And I would say that if you look at the evidence, no, she is not what the Mangerians consider to be a model citizen. So if you look at the table below, and this is after you've read the book and gone through it, a model citizen is a truth teller, somebody who tells the truth, somebody who doesn't pretend, doesn't lie, etc. Secondly, a posh person is considered a model citizen just because they live in Mangeria City, they follow the law. Thirdly, they are happy to do what they've been given to do. They live, they work, they get told who they're going to be with, and that is something prized. If you just follow the law and do what you're told and you're happy to do it, nobody's going to have a problem with you. Edyth, on the other hand, fakes her interest and desire to be a good student and a drudge. Although she does graduate top of her class, it shows you just how committed to pretending she is. She breaks as many laws as possible. If they found her or caught her out, they would classify her as savage. She often remarks as having savage hair, savage gene, which later on in the story becomes quite an important part. She learns to read. It encourages her to run away. She wants to get rid of her mark, which I would say is particularly important. And she steals from the posh. I mean, she's a con artist. She thinks independently, hides her intentions, plays games, etc. So, based on all of that, yes, Edyth is not a model citizen. So, how do we now write this down logically and with the correct evidence so that anybody reading it would have absolutely no doubt as to what is going on? So, we are going to use specific examples, reference them, and make sure they are in neat paragraphs. If you go with the lawyer analogy, remember there can be no doubt or the suspect walks free. So, Edyth is not a model citizen. She does not play her part in society wholeheartedly. She uses and creates opportunities to disobey and further her own interests. That's the introduction. That is what you focus on. Everything that you mention in that introduction has to be explained in the body. If it's not, why mention it? What's the point? Okay, and that's, if you've watched enough courtroom dramas, the other lawyer on the other side is going to say, what is the point of this? The judge might say sustained. They might ask you, to prove your point. You don't want that to happen. So, firstly, Etty often lies. Okay? She lies about the disappearance of Kitty to Handler. She lies about her, love for the Mangerians at school and working for the family. She pretends to reader that she found the books she brings to him. So she wears masks, she hides her true intent. Now you will notice that the first line is underlined. The reason for that is because it's a leading sentence. In other words, when you read that sentence, that is what is going to be explained in the paragraph. It helps the people follow what you're saying. It also helps you who are writing the essay to keep track of where you're actually going. Her social situation is against her. Lives in Slum City, orphan, schooled as a drudge. She's always going to be seen as a savage. She'll never be accepted. In addition to that, she breaks the law, is out after curfew, steals. Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. Her ability to read would make her a target. So Etty learns to read and continues to devour books. Problem is, it's a posh-only activity. So that, again, that would be classified as savage. But this gives her the idea to run away. She wants to see what's out there. She uses it to think for herself, to put two and two together, to make plans. And you might say to me, okay, but Dora does the same when she tries to get back at Kitty. I would say that is more sort of a instinctual sort of survival, almost like this person is my competition and I need to get rid of them. I see what you would mean, but I don't feel that it's coming from a place where she ever learned to think for herself. I mean, her burning desire is to look after Larissa. She loves children, and she's cunning, but not like Etty, if I can say that. The more significant thing is her desire to get rid of the mark. Okay, the mark is the symbol of the control and dominance that the Mangerians have. Everything is decided by that mark on your back, and that is possibly why she wants to get rid of it so badly, because that's the only thing that reminds her of what she's fighting against. If that's not there, her life is her own. That's how she sees it. So in the conclusion, if you look at all the information that I've given, it's very clear that Etty is not a model citizen based on Mangerian standards, but she's a deviation, a variable, and especially for someone like the Master and Bartholomew, who are very cold, rigid, and calculating people, she is a spanner in the works, and that is the problem for them. If you cause me trouble, you're not something that we want around. So hopefully that makes a bit more sense, and you can see the way that I've laid it out, how it works and the information that you're looking for. And before you say to me, yeah, but there's no referencing. Referencing is a tricky little beast, which I will deal with when I do part 2, because then I will be looking at page number, chapter, etc. And the examples that I'll put up on the slides, you'll be able to see a little bit clearer what I'm talking about. So remember this: you state the facts, provide the evidence, and leave no doubt. Part 2, the next video, I will be looking at the topic shown. Etty thought she was the only one who wore masks. Use examples from the novel to explain how she was the one deceived. And then I will also include referencing to avoid plagiarism, because remember, plagiarism is particularly nasty. It's passing off something as your own. It's like fraud. It's identity theft. It's thought theft. There's a reason there are copyright laws, etc. I mean, even just doing this YouTube channel, they're very specific about, you know, you've got to do it, it's got to be your own video. And if you do use anything else, you have to reference them. And I mean, people do that in their descriptions, so it's not difficult, but there is a technique to it, if I can put it that way. Anyway, thank you for watching.